Okay, so big, warm welcome, and give yourselves a round of applause for actually turning up this early in the morning. We're live streaming to possibly 1 billion people because it's on YouTube, but we'll see. I don't know, whoever it is. Say hello to the live stream people. I'm not actually sure where the camera is, but just generally wave. So thank you so much for coming today. I'm really, really grateful for you taking the time to come along. This is our first ever conference that we're calling A Happier World, and I like to think of it as the world's first conference for happiness change makers. So this morning you may have thought you're not a happiness change maker, but by the end of the day maybe you think it is. And I'm going to say a little bit more about that. But first of all, thank you so much for taking the time to come along this morning, and hopefully you find it a useful and enjoyable process. So, my name's Shamash Alidina, and actually I'm not usually into this kind of stuff, like organising conferences, not something that I normally do. My background is originally being a science teacher and a meditation teacher, and gradually, kind of through serendipity and one thing that led to another, ended up organising this conference. And I'm going to share a little bit about that story and how that started. Yeah, I think that's all I'm going to say for now. So before we go into too many details in terms of what's going to happen in the day and stuff, one of the really important things I want you to get from this is an opportunity to collaborate and to talk to each other and have a little bit of fun. So just for the next 2 minutes, if you just turn to someone that you haven't spoken to yet and have a go asking them these 2 questions. So what you can offer and give, and also what you hope to receive from the conference. So have a go at that for 2 minutes. That's amazing. Shows you how much you guys love talking. So 2 minutes of talking, and took another 2 minutes to just stop talking. Reminds me of old school days. Anyway, beautiful. I'm so happy to hear that you guys are connecting with someone new and conversing about these kinds of things. Fantastic. Maybe let's hear a few words, maybe 1 or 2 words, about the kinds of things that you hope to get and to give from this event. Oh, this is when everything goes silent, isn't it? We didn't talk about anything. Any words that come up? Connection, thank you. Hope, beautiful. Inspiration, information. Sharing. Special sharing. We put those together. Thank you, wonderful. So yeah, hopefully these kinds of things continue to foster and grow through the space that we have together today. So I reflected a little bit as I was putting this presentation today, what I hope this conference and this event reflects. And the first thing is a sense of fun and playfulness. And I found something that I really enjoy doing, and there have been times in my life when I've kind of lost that connection with a sense of fun and playfulness. And even as someone like a science teacher or a meditation teacher, or even organising happy events, sometimes it's easy to get too serious. And I remember this is quite funny. We had a meeting once about the Museum of Happiness. It's one of the things that we started. And in one meeting, the person said, "The Museum of Happiness, no one's going to take that seriously." We're like, that's the point! People are taking things too seriously. So people don't really respect a sense of fun and playfulness, but I think a lot of educators realise it's really, really important. So I hope we can have that sense of playfulness throughout the day. And I hope hope I stay standing. Secondly, friendship. Usually with a lot of these events, they say, "Oh yeah, great, Shamash, great opportunity to network. Make sure you bring your business cards and try and give them out as much as possible." And I always didn't feel comfortable with that idea, this idea of networking as if human beings are like one node and you have to just give these cards and try and get as many emails. I think it's much more important about friendship. And when I have this opportunity to go to these kinds of events, it's when real friendships kind of happen, that new and exciting things can go from that, not from just networking and just exchanging cards. So I hope you get the opportunity to maybe connect with just one person or 2 people and actually build up a friendship from that. And I think that could really, really help. And finally, someone said information or special information or something. And this idea of insight, so the things that these amazing speakers today are going to share with us, hopefully you'll have that light bulb moment and you have an insight and you may think about doing things differently to how you are at the moment. And that's something I find really, really exciting. So hopefully that happens too. That's about me. Anyway, this idea for this conference actually happened after me traveling quite a lot and attending a lot of conferences myself. So I mentioned I used to be a school teacher. I was a school teacher for 10 years. And although we had kind of the summer vacation and stuff, I didn't really get the opportunity to travel that much. And then when I kind of took the leap from having this kind of regular paid job to just starting out with nothing and trying to share mindfulness and meditation with the world, I had a lot of kind of space and time. And one of my friends said, why don't you check out, there's a conference over there in San Francisco, it's really worth the investment, check it out. I'm like, conference? Why would I want to go to a conference? In fact, I remember seeing on Twitter, someone saw the Happier World conference, and they said, that's much better than the normal asbestos conferences that I go to. So, yeah, it's a little bit different. So, so I went along to this conference, and wow, it was amazing. Like, I wanted to listen to all the talks, but I ended up spending more time just outside the talk area, just speaking to people and having conversation. One of my best friends that I had was actually after the conference, I think it was on Valentine's Day actually, it was in a random small restaurant because there's no space in any other restaurant, some random little restaurant in San Francisco, just talking to a person. I just saw that he had the tag on, so make sure you keep these on for the rest of your life because it makes a difference. And I saw he's like, wow, you went to the same conference. We started talking and we ended up working and collaborating together lots. So it was amazing, this experience of this conference that I thought was really kind of serious and official, actually was an amazing place to make friends and meet international people from all over the world. And what I realized is that actually there weren't many of these things happening in London. Another thing that I noticed when I did travel is that, they say, so Shamash, where are you from? I'm from London. They're like, what? You're from, what, London? I'm like, yes. What? London. I'm like, yeah. No, where in London? I'm like, North London. Yeah, North London. Where in North London? I'm like, Finchley. Oh my God, my uncle's from Finchley. There's always somebody from Finchley. And they get really, and then they're like, London. Yeah, that's where it's all happening. I don't know what you're doing here. That's where it's all happening. I'm like, really? That's where it's all happening? Oh yeah, everyone's mindful in London, and that's where happiness is just taking off. I'm like, you don't really notice that when you're, on the underground. It's not quite. I remember the other day I tried this experiment of like smiling at random people I wasn't supposed to say this, but anyway, smiling at random people, and I was like smiling away for about half an hour, like trying to go like that, and everyone's like, no one's even looking at me. But then one lady from about 100 meters away, she's like, I'm like, wow. And I just kept walking towards it. I'm like, the smiling thing actually works. And then we came up to each other, she's like, I met you last week at a conference. I'm like, yes! So yeah, she was the only other person smiling. Anyway, so this idea of conferences that happen in other places, I don't think really happen in London that often. So I was really excited that I could actually bring some of this energy and ideas that I've met from around the world to London. So that's why I'm passionate about it. Also, it really looks cool if you have a map of the world on a PowerPoint. The idea for this particular conference came... Actually, I had this idea of doing a conference for a while, but I didn't know how to do it. I mean, I don't normally do this kind of thing. And so one person that really, really inspires me is the next speaker, Nipun Mehta, that we met about a year or two ago over dinner. And so I thought, who would be the most amazing speaker in the world? I don't have the Dalai Lama's email. So somehow I managed to get Nipun's email. So let me just email him, see if he's available for a conference. I'm like, okay, late November. Nipun, are you available to speak at a conference? I can reply back, sorry, Shamash, that really lovely replies that he gives. It's really sorry, I might be passing through early November, but... And then I'm like, actually, I'm thinking of organising a conference in early November. Are you available? He's like, has it happened? Yeah, I am actually. So I'm like, and then my wonderful friend Chi, who's basically the organiser of this conference, I said, Chi, we have to organise a conference. We've got the first speaker. And it actually grew out of that. So it's kind of a very kind of natural way that it evolved. But I'm very grateful to Nipun, who agreed to say yes. And I think he's travelled the furthest than anyone from California to come over to speak today. So round of applause to Nipun. You get a round of applause even when you're not speaking. That's pretty impressive. Yeah, exactly. So this idea of a change maker is something I discovered recently through other kind of events and stuff I've been to. And a change maker is a concept that was developed by an organisation called Ashoka. Has anybody heard of Ashoka? Yeah, not just the movie, but actually, maybe it's not a movie. But it's actually an organisation that kind of fosters the growth of social entrepreneurs and social organisations and helps that innovation. And I believe some of the organisations they've worked with is like the person who started Wikipedia, Mohammed Yunus, who started working on the microloans, incredibly successful social organisations that actually change policy. And I started thinking, and at first we were going to organize a conference for kind of corporates. And then we started thinking about the kind of people that would come and then the kind of speeches that we'd have. And I thought that wasn't really what I was looking for, so it didn't feel right. And then it wasn't quite for students, it wasn't quite for entrepreneurs, we couldn't work it out. But then when I had this idea of a change maker, and this concept that anybody can be a change maker, as long as you're committed to make a change, and you actually want to take the action to make the world a better place, you're a change maker. So if you're a mum working at home, and or whatever you're doing, and if you're trying to be more positive, doing meditation, you're a change maker. If you're running a massive organization and you're trying to bring a sense of more positivity, or mindfulness, or kindfulness that we're going to talk about, these are all examples of change makers. So I came up with this concept of a happiness change maker, or maybe it wasn't me, someone. But when I'm the one who made the definition up. And that bird isn't part of the definition, okay? So it's just one who wishes to create a happier world, but through a combination of inner transformation and outer service. I probably copied and pasted that from Mindfulness website. But this idea of, like, when I've tried to make positive change in the world, and if I'm not doing things like my meditation or my practice, it's very easy for me to get tired, burned out. And I think that happens to a lot of people, because we want to help others, but if we're not nourishing ourselves, then that doesn't really help. So for me, it's helping and supporting people to nourish themselves is really important. So for me, a happiness change maker is not someone who's just trying to make positive change in the world and make everybody else's life happier, but at the same time to their own detriment and towards burnout, but actually looking after themselves as well. So I hope that's something that we can inspire at this event. So why is this inner bit so important? I've touched on that a little bit, this inner transformation, and I think I'll explain it through a little story and experience that I've had relatively recently. So about a couple of years ago now, I was traveling a lot, I was teaching a lot, and attending all sorts of events and giving a lot. And, I know about mindfulness and meditation. I was doing my, half an hour or 20 minutes, I was doing what I could, when I could. But after this kind of several weeks of working really hard, I found myself tired. And so the meditation wasn't working, and I felt this lethargy, and I was kind of dragging myself. I mean, that looks quite energetic to me compared to how I was behaving. And it wasn't nothing, that kind of spark that I had before was going away. And I tried the mindfulness meditation, all the other stuff. I tried exercising, but it just wasn't, the energy wasn't coming back like the way I was hoping to. I drank loads of masala chai, that didn't help either. And so I thought, okay, I'm just going to have to, it doesn't look good when a meditation teacher's burnt out, so we need to do something. So I thought, okay, I might have to just sleep this out. So I started kind of lying down in bed and sleeping quite a lot, and I started playing on my phone because I got bored quite easily and I wasn't sleeping straight away. And then I ended up on this website, this YouTube channel of Ajahn Brahm, and he talked about this concept of letting go. I thought, oh, that's really interesting. And then he had this other kind of speech, which was really funny. It was kind of like entertaining. So I was lying in bed being entertained by this monk from Perth, which is great. But then was the amazing thing about these YouTube links, because it said, retreat, day 1, morning session. I'm like, wow, I could actually do the retreat in bed, because normally you have to go somewhere to do a retreat. This puts the treat back in retreat. I'm like, this is good. So I had a go at that, and he started talking about this concept of kindfulness, and I think Nipu's going to talk more about this, and I'm going to touch on it, but this element of being kind and friendly to yourself in your practice. So I went to my retreat center, and I got into meditation pose, and I just started listening. And normally if I was doing a meditation, I'd at least be sitting up on the bed and like feeling a little bit as if I'm being a bit lazy if I'm not sitting up, or sitting on some chair or something. But this monk was so kind and friendly. He's like, first couple of days of the retreat, don't bother trying to meditate at all. You might as well just sleep through it. Just lie down, close your eyes, be kind to yourself, be nice to yourself, take it easy. You've been working so hard. It's like, how did you know? This is exactly what I need to do. And I started to do that. And this kind of common image, I mean, I'm sure that smile has been photoshopped on his face, because with those two legs in that position, you wouldn't normally be smiling like that, I don't think. Even the Buddha had a tree to lean on. So this kind of typical image that we get of meditation, that was completely out the window. And he actually shared a story of one of his monk friends who thought he'd pretend to be like the Buddha and say like, right, I'm going to meditate until I get enlightened. I'm going to be here for hours. Let's do this. And like 3 or 4 hours later, they had to go to hospital because he had double knee replacement therapy because of his knees had completely messed up through it. So that approach doesn't really work. So I think if we want to talk about meditation and letting go, I think this is one of the best photos I could find on the internet, right? That's just... She's getting a good rest. This guy is not getting much rest at all, I don't think. This girl is all about letting go, right? Okay? Who needs to... I don't need to hold my head up. Okay, completely floppy. And I kind of looked like that, but in a horizontal position. And a lot of rest and relaxation and energizing was happening for me. And I ended up feeling like that. That's not me, by the way. That was, yeah, so there's this real sense of peace and calm. And you can see that this baby is having a great time, okay? They don't usually act and close their eyes like that. She is definitely in some sort of peaceful zone. And this is the kind of state of mind I was getting into. One of the kind of terms I was going to call this talk was kind of from burnout to bliss. The sense of when I was really kind to myself and really nice to myself, then that I was able to energize myself. And it wasn't about the posture. It wasn't about trying to stop my thoughts. It wasn't about any of that. It was just about the sense of being with things as they are. So just a little example of my retreat schedule on that day. Breakfast, sleep, lunch, sleep, dinner, sleep. Well, this compares to my previous experience of a retreat, which was 4:30 a.m. wake up, meditate, mindful walking. And if you're lucky, and look at this, there's no space for the rest of the schedule. We have to go down to the 3rd floor to finish, okay? It's really packed. Whereas I think that's not really a natural way to rest, to re-energize. And this is not just about retreats, it's just about re-energizing yourself. And you can do this every weekend if you want, hopefully, unless you work on the weekend. So the other thing he emphasized, this teacher, is to go from being a control freak to being a kindness freak, okay? And I love this concept of a kindness freak, about not trying to control things. And what I'd realized, that when I was doing my meditation, I was subtly controlling myself. So something like this was happening, like my mind wanders off, I don't know. I'm like, mind, you've wandered off, come back please. And then my mind wanders off to something else. Thank you, mind, but please come back to me. And then it kind of kept going. And so most of my meditations would be basically running up and down this stage, effectively, right? So we think, oh, I'm being really friendly and being really kind and letting my mind be. But actually there's this subtle, constant, no, you need to be here. You know, life is all about the present moment. All these scientists keep going on every day. There's a research paper. It's all about being in the present moment. That makes you happy. And so there's this subtle control constantly happening. And it's actually that control, I realized, which is actually draining me and making me tired. And it was only through letting go and letting the mind do whatever it wants that it naturally came back to me. So these are some of the kind of sentences that kind of he says or I say to myself now. And I think this is what really makes a difference. So if you're treating your mind, I know the brain is probably not the mind, but if you're treating your mind as if you're treating your best friend, what you do is listen. Like if your friend's here and they're talking to you, you're like, thank you for talking to me about the football, but can you please come back to talking about the cricket? And if you kept saying that every time your friend was saying something, that would be really annoying for your friend. It wouldn't last very long. And that's what we're doing with our minds. Our mind is telling us that I want to think about the shopping right now. And so like, okay, mind, if you want to think about the shopping instead of listening to Shamash, go for it. It's probably more interesting anyway. So just let it be. And what I found is when I did that, the mind was like, actually, no, I'm bothered thinking of the shopping now. I want to be in the here and now. So it's about creating this friendship with your mind. So smiling towards the mind when it has these stupid thoughts that come up. Saying thank you to your mind. How often do we say that? We say thank you to our friends all the time. Thank you, mind, for hanging out for me since I was born, right? Thank you, breath, for being there when I'm sleeping or when I'm not concentrating on you. So this concept of actually improving the relationship within your own mind, that can make a huge difference. So that's what this kindfulness for me was all about. One of these kindfulness meditations that I did was at the Museum of Happiness. And there's a really nice link to Chi, who's the organizer of this conference, and how she had a positive experience with... Would you be okay to share that little story?
So it was September last year when I went to Museum of Happiness for an event. And by that time, I'd been through a very difficult time emotionally. And it wasn't something that, you felt in the mind anymore. I physically had this thing in my heart I couldn't shift. And then I went to kind of the kindfulness meditation. I said to Shamash, seriously, this meditation stuff I've tried, but it doesn't really work. He was like, that's okay. whatever, just whatever, seriously, just whatever, it's kindfulness. So I remember sitting there when I was told, you know, close your eyes or have it downcast. I was like, I want to look at the leaves. So I kept my eyes open the entire time, and I think it was the first time I was like, oh my God, actually, this is cool. I'm present. I'm not trying to be present because you say anything goes, but I'm actually present. And then after the event, I was really excited. And I realized, oh my God, this thing I felt in my heart was gone. I'm like, okay, let's just sleep, chill, and get out the next day and see. And actually, the next day, it was not there again. I'm like, wow, I've had this for weeks. How did it just go? So I was quite confused. But then after a few days, I'm like, yeah, I'm definitely sorted. But my problem is still there. Logically, in my mind, I still had the same problems, but I didn't feel the effect anymore. And I was writing a blog at the time. So after some reflection, I realized that, oh, actually, it was in that session that I discovered self-compassion for the first time in my life. Because what Shamash said about meditation was very right. You know, how you say, yeah, you know, just if your mind wanders, just gently brings it back. And for me, it means like, gee, you failed again, you know, failed again, bring it back. But yeah, see, you just couldn't be here, present. And with kindfulness, I was like, yeah, I want to open your eyes, open, want to think about whatever, and Shamash has that lovely way of doing meditation. So yeah, that was the first time in my life I truly experienced self-compassion thanks to kindfulness. And over the year, every time that I went through this cycle of physical suffering from emotional trauma, it was always self-compassion rather than strength, which I cultivated throughout my life. That really helped me. So I'm truly grateful to Shamash, who introduced like a new form of resource to me into my life. I never thought that, you know, compassion was the thing to kind of overcome suffering. But yeah, much more than strength. It is for me really the ultimate thing. So thank you, Shamash.
Round of applause to Chi. Thank you so much.